Welcome to the Post Credits Podcast, where we talk about movies after the credits roll. My name is Jesse,
And I'm Logan.
and today we're not reviewing the comedy. No. We're reviewing a new film by Christopher Borgli, The Drama. And we're sans Max for this episode. Circumstances out of our control meant that Max was unable to watch and review this movie. So, The Drama, as mentioned, a new film by Christopher Borgli, who directed Dream Scenario a couple of years back, I think in 2023, that starred Nicolas Cage as a teacher that started showing up in people's dreams inexplicably. And I have not seen that movie, but I've heard good and bad things about it. So Christopher Borgli is coming back with The Drama, which stars Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, and it's about a couple's marriage. Well, their relationship, that is, unraveling the week before their wedding. And before we get too far in, I suppose we should ask the question, how did you hear about this movie?
I remember seeing the trailer for it for maybe one that I saw at home because that's usually where I see most of my trailers.
Yeah.
I could pull it up right now, but that would kind of take too long. Other than that, this is one that talked about in some of our most anticipated conversations.
This was on number 16 on my most anticipated list, which was, I believe, an episode that you were not present for.
Yeah.
So it wasn't on
It
the
might
podcast.
have come up in conversation in the second
They probably
episode.
did. And we've talked about it outside of the podcast many times,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I wouldn't be surprised if you had heard most of what you've heard about it from us.
Oh yeah, I've heard it from many people. This is one of those that's pretty like mainstream in terms of like marketing and what movies people are excited for.
Yeah, I also got it wrong. It was 13 on my most anticipated.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I heard about this when I was scrolling through some upcoming movies starring Robert Pattinson, which is an activity that I enjoy, not specifically with Robert Pattinson, but with any actor, director, anybody who's known within the film industry. I will go to their Letterboxd page and sort by movies that have yet to come out and movies that don't have release dates, just to find some interesting projects that may or may not exist and may or may not come out eventually. And on Robert Pattinson's page, I found this interesting movie co-starring him and Zendaya called The Drama. And I saw the premise and I thought that looks interesting enough. It's produced by Ari Aster, and Ari Aster is an interesting filmmaker. Doesn't hit 100% of the time, but if you've heard me talk on some of the most anticipated episodes, I do appreciate Ari Aster, but I also appreciate his sensibility for the scripts that have something interesting to say. So when he is producing something, I'm a little bit more latched onto it. And yeah, so I was interested, and this ended up on my most anticipated when its release date was announced. Now, a small disclaimer before we get into the plot of the movie: this is the weekly spoiler review. We spoil movies all the time. Every episode, we spoil the movie we're talking about. That being said, this movie's marketing is very protective of its own premise, of its own little twist that sets the movie off into motion. And we will spoil that almost immediately. So,
Be warned.
Yeah, this is the weekly spoiler review. We're going to spoil everything about it.
If you don't know that we spoil movies around these parts, then it's never too late to know this.
But just this is a movie that a lot of people are up in arms over the twist, over how it's marketed. And just so you know, there is a twist that we will be spoiling immediately. You're not safe from spoilers at all in this episode. So with that being said, I suppose we should get into the plot, yeah?
Yeah.
So this movie opens with Zendaya. Zendaya is playing a character named Emma, and Robert Pattinson, who's playing a character named Charlie, he walks into a cafe, orders a black coffee, does not pay for it, but that's not actually important. It's just he never pays for it. And then he goes to sit down, but then he goes to try to talk to Zendaya, to Emma. He is immediately smitten by her, and she is reading a book, and she gets up to go use the bathroom or do whatever, and he looks at the book, and it is called The Damage by Harper Ellison,
Is
I
that a
believe.
real? I know Harper Ellison's real.
I mean, there's a lot of people named Harper Ellison, or a lot of Ellisons that are
Oh,
in.
neither the book nor the author exists. I'm thinking of a different
Yeah,
person, but
you're
yes,
thinking of Harlan Ellison or Ralph Ellison or all of these Ellisons, but no, yeah, The Damage by Harper Ellison is not real.
mhm.
So,
Oh, it
you know,
was
something
Harlan
to note.
Ellison. Yeah,
Yeah, Harlan Ellison, legendary sci-fi writer. So he looks up The Damage on Goodreads, and one thing that I appreciate about this movie is that every time a character uses a computer, they get the UI right. So he's actually on the Goodreads app, and The Damage by Harper Ellison has a 4.8 on Goodreads out of 5, which is
pretty good.
a very, very, very good score. I honestly don't know if there are Goodreads books that actually have that score, but Goodreads is such a pain to navigate, I don't think I'd ever find out. It's a good book. It's clearly a classic. And so he goes up to her and says, "Yeah, I just finished that book. I loved it." But Emma cannot like hear him. She is absorbed in the book and in the music that she's playing, and he's like he's very embarrassed about this scenario. And so
Everyone's looking at him.
everyone's looking at him kind of weird, and she's not looking at him at all, which is arguably the worst part. And he's just like, "Look, sorry, I wasn't hitting on you. I wasn't this, I wasn't that." And then Zendaya finally turns to look at him, and she's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, I was just saying I wasn't hitting on you." And she's like, "I couldn't hear any of that. I'm deaf in one ear." She only has her earbuds in one ear because she can't hear anything at the other anyway, so why put the earbud in? And so she says, "Let's just retry. Just restart. Try it again." And so he does, and then it cuts to Charlie writing his wedding speech. And so we get a little bit of an insight into this couple's life. Um, and and Charlie is being helped by his best friend, and Emma is being helped by her best friend. Um, Charlie's best friend is Mike, played by Mamadou Athi, and Emma's best friend is Rachel, played by Alana Hayim. And Mike and Rachel are married. And so they're working on their wedding speeches, and we get to see like their first date where Charlie says, "I actually never read the book." And he admits that he never read the book instead of just, I don't know, reading the book or at least reading a synopsis of the book before the date. There's a little insight into their first kiss, which is Emma, and not Emma, but Charlie rather, is a curator at the museum nearby, and he tries to get them into a museum late, but then his key card doesn't work and the alarm sounds and they're trapped in like the doorway, and then they kiss. And yeah, they're planning everything for a wedding. They are walking down the street, and then they see their DJ for the wedding, her name is Pauline, smoking heroin in the park.
Uh-oh.
And
Not good.
that really sets them off. They're like, "Oh no, that's really bad." And so they're talking with
Well, more so it sets off Robert Pattinson than Zendaya.
it
Like
definitely sets
she's
off Robert Pattinson more.
a little more fun with it,
Well, I think
kind of.
the ultimate thing is like there's a lot of talk about whether that action, the smoking heroin in a public park, is actually hurting anybody other than Pauline, right? I mean, there are countless movies about how awful heroin addiction is. Um, there was one that argued that it turns you into a zombie. I was Evil Dead. And like,
Plus, it's like a week before their wedding. What are they
right.
gonna do?
Well, that's the thing. Zendaya, Emma is like, it's not a big deal. She's not hurting anybody. And Robert Pattinson's like, but it is a big deal. Like, she's smoking heroin. And Zendaya's like, but it wouldn't be a big deal if we didn't know about it. We just happened to see her doing it. And they are discussing that with Rachel and Mike. And they're kind of divided. There's a line in the movie that's like, well, she wasn't just doing drugs, she was doing heroin. And Zendaya's like, really? That's the line you want to draw? Is that the line they want to draw? I suppose we will find out. But then Rachel rather, brings up that other people have done worse things, right? The people at the table, they are sitting around trying the entrees that they're going to serve from the catering company that they've hired for the wedding, trying some wine, schmoozing. They're really just schmoozing. And they eventually go around and do this like icebreaker game. I mean, it's not really an icebreaker. The should be broken by this point, but everybody's going to go around and say, what is the worst thing that they have done in their whole life?
And you already know that something's about to go down.
Right.
Zendaya is looking kind of worried at this point. She's, she looks a little hesitant.
Yeah. And that's not a group activity.
No.
That should never be a group
No.
activity. They say that they first did it, Mike and Rachel, in like to each other before they got married. That makes sense as like a couples game. Not like a 4-person activity. Definitely not. But
for reasons that will very clearly come to see later. Like,
right.
It should have been obvious from the get-go.
And so, Mike goes first. He says that he held he used his ex-girlfriend, who wasn't his ex at the time, as a human shield when they were being attacked by a dog, like a wild dog. Okay. And then Rachel goes, and her worst thing is that she locked a child
Who she just
who she describes as
As a
slow, and like she definitely means like mentally or intellectually disabled, and she locked him in a closet in an RV in the woods, and then didn't tell anyone that he was there.
It's funny how she first described it as, "Oh, I locked this kid in a closet," but as she kept telling the story, it's in an RV abandoned in the middle of the woods. This disgusting little place, like.
It's
That's a
awful.
lot worse.
And she has
than I
no
thought.
remorse for it. She's like, well, she survived, right? So who cares? And
Definitely in character for her.
yeah. Then it's Charlie's turn to go, and he has nothing. He says he cyberbullied a kid so hard he cried.
Or moved away.
Well, but then he says that the moving away was a coincidence. So like he really, we will eventually see him do the worst thing that he's ever done. So I kind of get why they.
It's not a high bar, but
No. But I kind of get why they held back here. And then it's Zendaya's turn. Da da da.
This is the twist.
This is the twist. She says that when she was 15 years ago, they're both 30. She planned and did not execute a school shooting.
Yeah.
There's the twist. That's the twist. And
That's what made certain people mad.
yes, a lot of people were mad because they held back on that, and that's a pretty serious thing. Although, I don't know. This is my biggest issue with the movie. The actual twist, to me, is not that big of a deal. It's a revelation. Don't get me wrong. It's a revelation.
Like in the story, it's
It's a like
very. I wouldn't call it as controversial as people have been putting it.
all the characters care a lot, but all I could think throughout the first half of this movie, and eventually the movie does kind of rescue itself from this, and we'll explain that when we get to it. But during the first half of this movie, I was just thinking, all of this she did 15 years ago. Like, she's changed pretty significantly since then. This was in high school, but really, the big sticking point here is that Rachel will not let go of this fact. She suddenly hates Emma because Rachel has a cousin named Sam who was paralyzed in a mass shooting. That's a pretty serious thing. I'm not gonna say that that's bad.
We're
like that's
we're too desensitized to this.
that's
but,
pretty horrifying. And like, I think with that you can kind of understand where Rachel is coming from, but she really does blow it way out of proportion for what the event itself actually is. But what's important about this, at least for how the movie progresses and how it carries itself for the rest of the runtime, is that every other character cares a lot about this, especially Charlie. So Charlie is now questioning everything he knows about Emma and the person who he's about to marry, you
Which
know?
is kind of understandable. I mean, like, she's the person he's gonna marry, like you said.
It's a little bit understandable. It feels very reactionary, and I think really, really in the first half, it's very reactionary. And I ultimately think that the movie puts too much of an emphasis on the events of the twist itself, that she did plan a school shooting, even if she didn't carry it out. We will actually learn more about her, and Charlie sits down to discuss with Emma about this, get into her head
But it's
when
that
she was
event
doing
that's
this.
not really the point.
Right. Well, the point is that Charlie feels really like he's more affected by the fact that suddenly none of his friends trust Emma. The people that
Mhm.
know this event seem to be very reactive towards it, and really it's Rachel. But then it's also
It kind of
um,
spreads over.
it spreads over to Mike because Mike is married to Rachel. Wherever Rachel goes, Mike goes. Mike is constantly having to keep her under control. There's a conversation that they have, Robert Pattinson and Mike, where Mike says, "You cannot marry that psychopath. Like, you're going to have to leave. Like, don't even go back into the apartment." But then it's revealed that it's just what Zendaya thinks that they're saying because she can't hear because of her, she is half deaf. Interesting. And this movie does a lot of camera work to get ourselves into the minds of the characters. There are scenes in which Charlie is questioning Emma, where Emma is replaced by her 15-year-old self. In those scenes, and even in like memories that we've seen, like intimate memories between them, and young Emma is played by an actress named Jordan Curette. Yeah, I haven't seen her in anything. I've seen things that she's in, but I don't remember her roles in them. Now things progress, and we learn that Emma planned a school shooting because she was bullied, but then she got really obsessed with the aesthetic
Hmm.
of the shooter because shootings happened all the time.
Yeah.
It's horrible to even have to say that, but it is true of America that there is a shooting every day, which is pretty horrible. But it got her a lot of attention.
And we see her like brandishing her father's rifle, which, like, for some background knowledge, I first guessed it was some sort of M1 Garand type rifle, but did a little bit of research this morning from what I could remember. It looked like it was actually a Springfield Armory M1A, which is a civilian model of the M14 rifle, a direct evolution of the M1 Garand. So, as that kind of makes a little more has a little more importance later when we talk about, you know, Zendaya's father's role in, her backstory in her life, because like there's a point where it's revealed that her father was part of the military, so that on the surface level sort of suggested that the gun ownership has kind of ties into that, but seeing as the actual rifle is like a civilian version of a semi-automatic that is not really used in military service, that connection is kind of less important. But I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there.
Yeah, I have no idea about anything relating to guns. So as far as
It's
uh,
yeah, it's the exact one she was holding.
yeah, I'm being shown a picture of a gun that looks similar to the one that she was holding. Um, so um, yeah, and we learn that she was dissuaded from committing the school shooting because she saw how another mass shooting in which one of her students was killed, well, not one of her students, but one of her classmates was killed. She witnessed how that destroyed the community around her, and
That's
so
the
she
one in the car crash, right?
no, that was a different one. The car crash one was before. So basically, okay, here's her whole
Here's the
story.
timeline.
The timeline is her dad was in the military, which meant that they moved around a lot. And she moved to a spot when she was 7, and she stayed there for a long time. But when she was 12, her best friend and neighbor was killed in a car crash. And I believe her neighbors and her neighbor's father killed in a car crash. That kind of put her in a sour mood, shall we say, uh, emotionally. And then they moved 2 years later, which unseated her, and now she had to make new friends. And again, the friends that she just made died, and now she has no more friends, which kind of puts her in the position of feeling this intense hatred and vitriol for the community that she has found herself in. But then, after seeing that community shattered by the loss of a beloved member, she abandons the idea of committing another shooting against said community and instead goes hard in the other direction, throwing out the gun and advocating for gun control. And now she has found herself a place in that community. And
Yeah. So I think it's important to say that the father's military service kind of plays more role in the fact that they moved from place to place rather than anything else.
yeah. Yeah, and suddenly it seems that there's a lot more guns in this a lot more guns in this couple's life than there were before. Charlie throws out a mug with a gun on it that says coffee or I'll shoot.
Well, gun imagery.
I mean, it has a gun on it.
Yeah.
It says coffee or I'll shoot
Imagery.
with a gun. An image of a gun, I suppose.
Mhm.
And suddenly Emma and Charlie are concerned about how they see each other now. Emma doesn't want this to cloud how Charlie sees her, but Charlie can't deny that it has.
And it also doesn't help that Charlie is British, so
Yeah.
he's definitely not used to.
Right. That might be the other thing, which is we're two Americans, talking
Mhm.
about this movie, discussing this movie. We are desensitized to gun violence. There was a shooting threat at my high school while I attended. Like, we're around this stuff. Charlie's British. He's not around this stuff. And I guess it explains why Mike is ultimately the least affected by this, because Rachel has a personal connection. Mike has a kind of 2 degrees of separation from that personal connection and really is only affected because his wife is affected. And then Charlie maybe is affected because in Britain that's not normalized as it is in America. And they bring that up later in the movie as well. But yeah, Emma starts having weird nightmares. She has a dream that there was a shooting at their wedding, and we get a shot of everybody dead at the wedding, a la Kill Bill almost.
Spoiling Kill Bill, by the way.
It's not a spoiler. That's like
the first 3 minutes.
The first scene.
If you guys are 2 minutes into Kill Bill, then
if you were
get
2 minutes into
We're
Kill
sorry.
Bill and then paused it to watch this episode, thank you. Appreciate that.
yeah,
It's good.
leave a like while you're at it.
Yeah. And then once you're finished, watch Kill Bill. It's pretty good.
It is. Yeah, I just finished Volume 2 the other day.
Yep. So now Rachel has kind of cut off contact from Emma and also from her job. There was a moment there where I thought that she was dead, but she wasn't. For whatever reason, she just didn't have contact with Emma, and she didn't have contact with her boss because Emma had hired Rachel to work on a project with her at her work. Emma's job is spreadsheets at company. And so, yeah, and just Rachel has been completely out of the picture on that front, and so Emma gets her fired from it. And now Rachel is really pissed, and she has a meeting with Charlie in which they discuss. Charlie appears to be somewhat getting over this revelation, and he says that, he brings up the societal point that shootings are so normalized in America that probably everybody has the thought at least once of shootings. Shootings are constantly in our consciousness, and we don't value them the same that other cultures do. They're not as big of a deal when they occur, which is very sad. And Rachel utterly rejects this line of thinking completely. She does not like that line of thinking at all. She thinks that it is solely on Emma for even thinking of that. But this also connects back to the stuff with the DJ and the heroin. It's the same conversation. The question of how many other people are doing heroin that we talk to that we don't think less of because we've never seen it happen. Wouldn't be an issue if Zendaya just hadn't spoke. And then Rachel says, okay, I need to go talk to Sam to make sure that she's still okay with me attending the wedding as the maid of honor. So Charlie runs out to intercept Sam and have a really awkward conversation with her in which he says, oh, you would love Emma. You would love Emma. And then Sam muscles her way out of that conversation. Charlie is now probably at the lowest he's been in terms of his feelings on Emma. He is really unsure about whether he even wants the wedding to happen, and after that whole societal point was kind of shot down by Rachel, he's not totally sure in his own assurances anymore. And so he has a conversation at work with his coworker.
Yeah, a conversation. I
Well,
wouldn't call it that.
It starts as a conversation.
Starts
It starts as a conversation with a coworker named Misha, played by Haley Benton Gates, and basically Charlie asks, like, hypothetically, asking for a friend. What would you do if you found out that your boyfriend, her boyfriend is named Blake, had planned a school shooting when he was 15? You know, just
out of the blue,
just
hypothetical.
Just like, yeah, just if that
Crazy
could even happen. And apparently Misha is also really against that idea. Like, she is very much like, I would call the police on him. And Charlie's like, what would the police do exactly? What would they arrest him for? Having a thought that he didn't act on 15 years ago, which is interesting because it shows his line of thinking. He's clearly thought this through on some level. Like, he hasn't just spent the whole movie brooding. It's really impacting him that Emma did this, but he also understands a little bit of why it might not be as big of a deal as he is making it seem. And Misha says, I don't know, whatever. And Charlie says, look, if he really, really made you believe without a shadow of a doubt, which clearly she hasn't because he has many shadows of many doubts, that he had reformed and he had changed, would that, like, what would you do? Would you still go through with it? And Misha says, well, that's exactly the same thing a psychopath would do. And the word psychopath is thrown around a lot in this movie, not totally in relation to people actually with ASPD, just kind of as
colloquially.
Yeah, like, you know, the generalized societal idea of the unfeeling yet tricky killer.
Tricky being the key word here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, people who, I guess, understand interaction on a higher level, but use
which
it
is
to
not.
It's not real. That's not what ASPD does. It's
No.
It's just, but, you know, psychopath more as a colloquial term than as like a medical diagnosis. But important to note nonetheless. Charlie is distraught by that idea, so he leaves. He throws his cup across the ground and leaves. And there was a scene earlier in which Charlie and Emma were posing for a marriage photographer, and that shot is in the trailers, but they clearly have no chemistry anymore because Charlie is just so uncomfortable. And the wedding photographer is trying to get him to smile, and she says, look at this beautiful woman that you're about to be married to. Isn't she so fantastic? And as she says that, it zooms in on a woman that is not Emma, that is distinctly not Emma. And so Charlie is in tears in his office, and Misha comes in and is like, hey, are you okay? What was that? And Charlie kisses her and quite literally rips off her shirt. Buttons go flying.
Things get freaky.
And she turns around to present herself to him, and he tries to take his pants off and ultimately fails. Not because it was too difficult, but because he backs out of it at the last second.
There was a lock on it.
It's like the Robin Hood Men in Tights. Yes.
Take a bolt.
Those British pants. But no, then he backs out of it at the last second, and then he just kind of walks away and is like, don't tell anyone, please, because that's not a good thing. Uh-oh. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that happens in this movie. Like, just, that's the twist. Forget the school shoot. I mean, don't forget the school shooting thing. It's important, but it's like, that's the thing that had me the most shocked, was that scene. And then Charlie and Emma, they go and they talk to Pauline, the DJ, about the heroin thing. Pauline says, no, I wasn't doing it, but they fire her anyway. And then Charlie is just really, really terrified about what will come of this Misha thing. Especially Misha is also admitted when Charlie initially asked her like, "Oh, what's the worst thing that you've ever done?" And Misha said, "I cheated on a boyfriend that I was living with for 2 years." But then there's the wedding. Things are going well. No one's dead yet, and um,
Yet.
and Emma's dad stands up to give a speech. And he's going really on and on about his rifle. Like, wow, I had a rifle. I was in the military. And suddenly, when you entered your gun control arc, my gun disappeared. My gun, my gun, my gun. And then we hear a gunshot because
The DJ's
the new DJ's audio equipment was wrong, which caused an audio pop in the speakers because the cables were mismatched. That was scary.
Mhm.
And then Rachel gives a really passive-aggressive speech about everything that it says, "Oh, Charlie, you're so open-minded to be marrying her."
Yeah, people are giving looks.
People are giving looks. There's some clapping, but then Emma cannot handle it. She goes to the bathroom, and in the bathroom she hears like, "She did a school shooting. Don't tell anyone that school shooting." And then she walks outside to see Misha, and the assumption is, oh, Misha was talking to Rachel. And so Emma's like, who are you talking to? And she's like, Susan. She's like, oh, Susan, okay. Cool. Got it. Uh-huh.
People are talking.
And then Emma drags Charlie into a back room and is like, hey, people are talking about it. This is bad. Can you get Misha in here? And Charlie's like, oh, shit. This is the worst possible outcome. And then Emma's like, okay, I'll take Misha in here myself.
No.
Now, Charlie is a nervous wreck at this point, and Misha comes in saying, look, you know what? He kissed me, and it didn't mean anything.
Shut up.
It's not about that. And then Emma's like, oh, Jesus Christ. What actually happened here? And then Misha tells the whole story. Charlie tries to tell the story, but Emma cuts him off. Misha tells the story, and then we don't really see the resolution of that conversation, but we do see them go back to their seats. And then, I mean, I can't imagine that Emma is happy about this, but then it's time for Emma to give a speech. But she says, I don't want to give a speech, so Mike instead calls Charlie to give a speech, and he tries to say his speech. And
he deleted earlier.
He deleted it earlier, but we had seen some like bits about her about his speech, and it was like, oh, when we met, you had read a book, but I lied, and he gets through that part, but then he said like he was trying to say that her laugh had a sort of repulsive quality to it.
Not his words.
Those are his words. He called
No, it was.
No, I mean it was a little bit of Mike, a little bit of Charlie, but Charlie clearly wanted to say that it was repulsive, but that somehow worked to make it better or cuter in some way. But then he just says, I just want to say your laugh is repulsive and that we have great sex, because that was kind of part of what he wanted to put in to his speech. But then he breaks down and he apologizes and he says, I can't believe I would ever do something to harm you, especially not with Misha. And then Blake is like, what? Misha? And so then Blake starts storming over to him, cut to him home. His face is awash with blood of his own. And we get some flashbacks of like Charlie is kind of alone moping in his apartment, and then we flash back to Blake headbutting the shit out of him and him bleeding everywhere. And even Misha doesn't seem super happy with the direction that this is taken. And, everybody's gossiping. And
that's the worst of it.
So that's the worst thing that happened in this whole movie, was there was some gossip. And Emma had said previously that after the wedding they should go to like a local small town diner that they really like. Like, wouldn't that be cute? And so Charlie, not knowing really where else to go, goes into that diner, and he orders a cheeseburger and a Diet Coke, and then he sits down and then Emma walks in.
Mm.
Emma walks in.
Who
Eh,
knew that she would have had the same idea?
I can't imagine it. And she also orders something, but we don't know what. And she sits down at the same table and says like, "Hi, my name's Emma. What's yours?" Cut to black.
Yeah.
Movie over. Credits have rolled on the drama.
Start over strategy, by the
Yeah.
way, we know works probably 50% of the time.
The-
As we've
so-
seen, so we don't really know what's gonna happen.
So Charlie and Emma earlier in the movie were trying to have sex, but Charlie couldn't get it up.
So
And there's a really awkward scene where he's trying to masturbate to get an erection, and it's really hard to watch. And then Emma's like, you know what? Let's
it's
just
not explicit, but
no, it's not explicit, but you could hear it. You could hear like the.
and
It's just really, ugh. And that's
it's
not
funny.
it's not the first time that Robert Pattinson has had that scene in a movie. He also did that in The Lighthouse. But like, yeah, and then they try the start over thing, but it doesn't work that time. So maybe it'll work this time. But yeah, so walking out of the theater, what were your thoughts on Christopher Borgle's The Drama?
Yeah, Max, why don't you start?
Horrible news. It's just terrible.
So yeah, moving on to
Yeah.
my thoughts. I was pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't really have much in mind for what exactly this could have been about. When I first saw the trailer, I saw, oh, this could be a good movie for the right audience, for someone who isn't me, and that is still partially true, but I still quite enjoyed it for maybe the same reasons as Jesse has as my impression. But as far as the demographics of our theater, where they probably really enjoyed it as well, and it was mostly consisted of college age girls
Yep.
and their boyfriends.
Sitting in different rows.
Godspeed. Let's hope you enjoyed it too. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I mean,
It was
it was a good movie.
it was good.
And I will say, like, there's a lot working in this movie. There's a lot happening. I think it was smart never to go too over the top, and I think it was sold either, depending on which trailer you watched, it was sold either as an Ari Aster movie that started normal but had a sinister build-up at some point, or it was sold as a straight marriage-themed rom-com. If you assumed it was either one of those two things, you
I
were
think
wrong.
I got the latter.
So I got
Yeah.
I got the former from the marketing that I had seen from it, and maybe that was true, maybe that wasn't. That's not what the movie is ultimately.
No.
It never goes over the edge of action. It is always very understated, and a lot occurs in the subtext of the movie.
Yeah, it's very subtle, and it lets the audience, kind of bask in it more than letting the movie show you.
Right. And I think that there's a push and pull here on a thematic level. There's a lot to talk about identities and changing, but also about the morality of letting something happen versus causing it to happen, right? We see that in the contrast between Emma's confession and Rachel's confession. Emma would have killed however many people, but didn't go through with it. Rachel would have killed that one person, and effectively, if the police hadn't happened to find that child, she would have. She
Yeah.
effectively did kill that person, just that person didn't die, which makes for an
That's-
interesting character.
I mean, legally, that's attempted manslaughter.
right. And the
She's-
movie,
Like, legally more in a bind than, Emma ever was.
right. And clearly I think the movie is aware of this. I've seen a lot of people talking about the movie and its twist as somewhat exploitative or insensitive, and ultimately I disagree. I
No.
think that the arc
Yeah.
that Emma's character goes through is very real.
Handles
and,
it extremely well.
very much so. Like the things that happen are reasonable,
Mhm.
realistic things to happen.
Realistic, like Remember the one scene in the gym when the teacher is talking to all the students? That felt so real. Like I thought they actually brought in like some teacher or counselor to talk to the kids
Yeah, it's like
and
a
like make up
crisis
stuff. Yeah.
counselor, and
Like
no,
that's
that really
nothing
did
I
feel
ever
real.
experienced in real life, but like I that just felt legitimate.
Yeah, I I totally agree. It felt really real, and the movie. The thing is that the movie wasn't interested in the twist. Like it gave the school shootings plot its own narrative,
Yeah, and
its own.
I wasn't interested in the twist either, and I think because me and the movie met each other at that point, and that made it a lot more enjoyable.
Right, and that's the thing. The twist can be anything. What's important about the movie is that there is a twist that matters to these two people in two different ways.
Yeah,
One of them is conflicted, and the other one shoots to the opposite end of the spectrum.
shoots.
She, there's a scene right after like the confession in which they're meeting their marriage photographer, and the marriage photographer is like, "We're gonna shoot you. We're gonna shoot your parents. We're gonna shoot your grandparents
and your family."
So
And coupled with the flashes of light and
Yeah.
sound from the cameras clicking that
Right.
resemble gunshots. The imagery for guns in this movie in general, like for firearms and firearm sound effects, is really it really adds a lot to it, even if they don't really play an integral thematic role as
right,
in the movie.
and the the imagery is there, and the twist is there to help whatever imagery they're gonna show.
Yeah.
The twist, it didn't have to be a school shooting. What if she was planning to shoot her parents, right? What if she was planning to stab her dog? Like, it doesn't actually matter what. Those are two violence-related allegories, but she could have been planning to rob a bank. Like, it doesn't actually matter what she was planning to do. It just informs what the imagery is, and then the plot operates on its own beyond that, just around whatever that twist is.
But I think as far as the audience goes, making it a school shooting related issue makes it a lot more personal to a lot of people, especially in an American audience.
Right.
So I think it works in that way. I think it couldn't have been like anything violence related. This was it in so much as not an obvious, maybe it was for some people route to
Mhm.
go, but very effective one to say the least.
Yeah, that's not to say that they don't get a lot out of the fact that it was a school shooting. I just think that they could have changed the parts that were about a school shooting and made it anything violent. Um, the societal connection between school shootings and America, that's a very relevant and topical issue. I'm not begrudging that point. I think that it was very good that it was a school shooting to make that point better, but ultimately, like, that could have been, I don't know, the American obsession with robbing banks.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's a big thing, but like, I don't know, you could have swung it that way. And
And it's not like very anti or pro gun either. Like it doesn't ruffle feathers in that way.
what it is I think it's very pro the Emma character, because
Yeah.
what Rachel does for most of the movie is act really, really angry and then make a bunch of social faux pas,
Mhm.
including saying that Mike grew up around guns, which is a faux pas because Mike is black and he did not grow up around guns. He had an uncle who was a police officer who had a lot of guns, but he did not grow up around guns. And so you kind of have that, like, Rachel hasn't put as much thought into her partner as Charlie's actively putting in right now.
That's what it's more about, like putting thought into the people you have deep relationships with. It.
Right.
You
And
know.
I listened to this review from another podcast that I very much enjoy called the Critically Acclaimed Network, and they
Not the post credits podcast without the.
not the other post credits podcast, but subscribe to them too. They're great.
Have you actually watched them?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really? Like recently?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Because like they do kind of like
They do like
well,
similar
we do the same things as them. I don't want to
they
say we copy each other or
they
anything like
they
that.
got in like 3 months before us, but they do very good content. They do very similar like reviews to us. They also do a movie a week.
Guys, if you happen to be listening to us like right now, hello.
Hi. And yeah, no, but they've been doing like more stuff. They in the last 2 weeks they've done 3 reviews. Like, it's good.
Not
Uh,
that's not to say we don't have stuff in the works. We definitely do. We definitely have stuff on file to release, so be on the lookout for that. We're
A lot of
kind of
stuff.
less in a slump as we and than we were in the past, I'd say. But other than that,
Yeah.
back
So
to the movie.
back to what I was saying. But the critically acclaimed network, they did a review on this movie, and they called them. They said that the movie was very unkind to Zendaya's character. A sentiment that I disagree with, because I ultimately think the movie never really leaves her side. Because, and maybe part of that is that I felt that the twist wasn't as big of a deal as the movie was making it seem. But ultimately, the movie's inner turmoil relates to Robert Pattinson's character, and
It's character driven.
they argued that the movie was focused on the fact that the black woman was the one that had to be persecuted, and the movie focused too much about the white man's thoughts about that, which ultimately I disagree with. I mean, that is what the movie, like, Zendaya is a black
just
woman and
happens
Robert
to be.
Pattinson is a white man, and I understand the subtext and I understand the looter narrative that they're critiquing, but I don't think that works with the text of the movie itself. I don't think that's
no, it doesn't.
I don't think that's true. I think that the movie is very much on Zendaya's side, and I just think Zendaya's arc is complete.
It's just characters that are not on Zendaya's side.
Right. I mean,
Emma's side.
Rachel, the Alana
Rachel.
Haim character,
Yeah.
she's not on Zendaya's side. That's what it really boils down to. And then everything from then on is about the inner
It's
turmoil.
an extension of that in a way.
Right.
Pretty much an extension of the first dinner scene, to be honest.
Right. I mean, it all kind of sprouts from that, and then eventually, Robert Pattinson does this horrible thing, like this legitimately awful thing. He sexually harasses his coworker. This is pretty terrible. Like, and that is built off of that sort of turmoil that he's discussing, that he's feeling. But I do feel the movie never forgives him for that, and I appreciated that it never forgave him for that.
It punished him for it,
Yes,
if anything.
it very much punishes him for it, and I just, I don't feel like, I feel like the movie, the only character that the movie remains on the side of for the whole runtime is Emma. Because Charlie it's with for a while, and it's not necessarily critiquing his turmoil. Like, it's not saying he shouldn't have that turmoil. It's just that the things that he does because of that turmoil, he shouldn't, like, that's unacceptable.
And maybe Mike's side, too.
It's on Mike's side, but Mike ultimately, I mean, we have no problems with Mike. He's just kind of a decent guy.
Yeah, he's just regular dude.
He doesn't have any strong opinions on the drama as it is. He ultimately,
The name of the movie.
what he's more interested in is a level of conflict resolution. He just doesn't want Rachel to go out of control about it. And he's trying to protect his friend, and like, I guess, yeah, the movie is on his side, but ultimately he doesn't have a side. It's kind of hard to be honest on his side because he's so pedestrian in the movie. But he forms an interesting, like, he is an interesting character. He has an interesting role to play because he is always with Charlie, right? He is always on Charlie's side. So when Zendaya is has like a thought about what Charlie could be saying, usually that thought comes with Mike as well, and it's important because she's friends with both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought this movie was really interesting, really well done. I thought it was going to end really terribly, and I don't think it does, because the point that it comes to is that these two people do still love each other, right? It's still, even at the end, it's still on Emma's side, right? She's not the same person that she was. It doesn't really matter what Rachel thinks, because Rachel's not getting married to her. Like, I think that it works in its thematics really well with its plot.
And it doesn't like decide for you whether or not they do stay in the relationship long term. To me, going back to like the starting over strategy that they use and the uncertainty of that ever working out for them, and the fact that they're two people like with around a lot of crazy people
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of crazy in them as
Right.
well, that you don't know if whether or not it's going to work out in the end.
Right.
So yeah, the movie makes it ambiguous, and I think that's the best way they could have done it.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. I am of the opinion that they do stay together, and I think the performances, that's kind of what they were angling towards. And speaking of the
At least
performances,
in the immediate sense.
speaking of the performances were very, very good
No, yeah.
throughout this entire movie. Robert Pattinson delivers what could be considered a career best, as does Zendaya. Alana Haim was really great.
It reminded me of Thunder Road, his speech at the wedding.
Oh yeah,
Like kind of the
the
awkwardness.
short film, yeah.
Like
No, for
Jim
sure.
Cummings.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. It wasn't a wedding. It was the
Funeral.
in
In the
Thunder Road, it's a funeral. In the
funeral.
drama, it's a wedding.
Yeah.
I get it. No, I quite like this movie.
hmm Would I put? I do, but would I put it on my top 5 of the list? I don't know. There are a few really, really good contenders that would also give a high score in tandem with this for, but I wouldn't say this is my like to my exact likings for genre wise, like
Yeah.
rom com slash intense ish,
I mean, right now it's
dramas,
right.
as the title implies, but
Right now it's in my top 5, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's gonna stick around. Like
exactly.
it's so early in the year. It's only March or April, and it's not a movie that I'm looking at and thinking that if we get 10 movies better than this, it will be a really good year. Because I could see 10 movies coming out that are better than this, and it's not even November or December.
Mhm.
Like it could happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna make that judgment too soon, but I can give a rating,
Yeah,
and I think my rating is 4.5 stars here.
4.5. I'll give a 4.2,
4.2.
between a 4 and a 4.5.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I quite enjoyed that. And if you have anything to say about what we said or what we didn't say in this episode, yeah, leave it in the comments and we will read it out on the next episode or on a future episode of the weekly spoiler review. If you think we missed anything, if you think we got something wrong, whatever it may be. And speaking of comments, we have a comment to respond to
Oh, that's exciting. Is
on
that 2 in a row for us? As
yeah, I think so. It is on the weekly spoiler review for They Will Kill You.
ooh,
And it's a very simple comment from @Gabo the Fabo. Welcome to the show.
a new one.
Yes, a new one.
Ooh,
Gabo
welcome.
Gabo the Fabo on YouTube says she didn't shoplift though, and what she's referring to, if you didn't see the episode or if you did and just forgot, is I believe, as far as I understand, a scene early in the movie in which the two characters, Asia Reeves played by Zazie Beetz and Maria Reeves,
Maria.
Maria Reeves sounds right, played by Myha'la, are in a convenience store of some sort of bodega, and the Myha'la character attempts to shoplift a box of chocolates because Asia Reeves is convinced that they cannot afford it or they shouldn't buy it. They shouldn't commit to luxuries. Which I did rewatch the episode and we did a really bad job explaining what happened in that scene. And yeah, what does happen is that Myha'la does attempt to shoplift the chocolate, which leads to a scene later on. I mean, later on in that same scene, just a different shot in which they're running away from their abusive father, but their abusive father figures out where they are because the shoplifting alarm goes off within the convenience store. Which then leads to the chase and sets off the movie essentially. So yeah, I don't know. We did a pretty bad job of explaining that. I don't know if that was just a miscommunication.
That being said, always keep your gun pointed in a safe direction. Keep
Uh,
your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And wear ear and eye protection.
oh, yeah,
Jesus, people.
that's another thing we didn't mention is that Zendaya's character went deaf in one ear because of the gunshot.
She
But
pointed the. She had like the stock directly up her ear when she
yeah,
first shot it.
that will give you hearing loss. So yeah,
Practice
let's practice
safety.
practice safety.
Yeah.
And also keep your guns stored like safely and securely. Don't let anybody get their hands on it, especially not if you live with kids in the house. So yeah, some plugs. We have an Instagram at post_credits podcast. Normally Max would do that plug, but he's not here, so I'm doing it. Follow us for some exclusive reviews, videos, posts. If you want to know when we're posting and for whatever reason YouTube isn't giving you that notification on Instagram, I don't know, maybe Instagram will give you that notification. I can't promise anything. I'm not on there. But I am on Letterboxd
Yeah.
at Threnv, that is THRNV, like the sin. I have my review for the drama up and running on there, as well as by the time this comes out, I will have a review up for every single movie directed by the master of horror, John Carpenter. That is his 23 movies, including a TV miniseries he directed that was recut into a 3-hour movie, 2 episodes of the TV series Master of Horror, and 20 traditional feature films, a mix of TV movies and theatrical features.
And you can find me at Letterbox at Invaded Films. That's INVADEDFILMX. You can find Max's Letterbox. We're not forgetting him at
That's true.
MJ Spiegel. That is MJSPIEGELS.
Nope, no S at the end. Just
Spiegels.
MJ Spiegels. There's 2 of them.
Threnv, Spiegels, and
Yeah.
Invaded Films. Please check all of our letterboxes out.
He has a review up for a film
Yeah.
called Roger and Me right now that contains spoilers, so I'm not going to read it, but I'm sure it's fantastic.
I believe I have something on the radar. Lately, I've been doing my reviews on stuff, not particularly on the podcast, like I guess as we've all been doing, but
Right.
in some capacity. But by the time this comes out, I will probably have something on there. I don't have anything specific that I watched beforehand, but please be on the lookout.
Amazing. Yeah, so I suppose with all that being said, with our gun safety PSA and review of the drama in tow, roll credits.